Today we're going to be talking about emotional development and social development with children ages 4 to 6. So let's just break it down a little bit as far as emotional patterns for each of these ages because they will change greatly in these 3 years. Most 4-year-olds are very self-centered, right? They're typically going to be defiant, impatient, loud. They're going to argue and be bossy with other children, and they can even do that with some adults as well. They typically will be this way with their siblings as well. But then at other times when they're not sort of basically acting like a brat, they're also very loving and affectionate. And that's because they still need and they're still trying to seek that approval of their parents and of their caregivers. But yet at the same time, while they're looking for that approval, and that affection, they're still trying to separate from their parents or their caregivers. They're trying to become more independent. Their language and vocabulary skills are going to show very, very much clear improvements compared to when they were toddlers. And they're still going to sort of test it, though, and make up, sort of nonsense words that don't really make any sense. They're obviously going to have a very active imagination, and they're going to have a very rich fantasy life that they sort of try to live in and try to express with their words and with their play. This imagination can also lead to some fears that don't really seem to make sense to adults, like being afraid of the dark, being afraid of possibly using the bathroom because something might reach up to the toilet and get them. Basically, what we need to do as a caregiver is help them get over these fears by acknowledging them and then talking about the fears. If we say that, no, monsters don't exist, that's sort of a lie. We can't really, we don't want to say that, and kids don't understand that. But if we talk to them about it and show them that there isn't a monster in their closet, then it helps for them to get over their fears themselves. I always like to talk in this sense about a story, recount a story of a kid who was scared of the dark because, and had trouble going to sleeping in their own room because of monsters in the room. And a parent made that comment at a doctor's office, and then the doctor came up with a great deal. Just grabbed a spray bottle, filled it with water, put a prescription sticker on the front. They called it monster spray. They spray it around the room before bed, and it will repel the monsters, and explain that to the kid. And the parents did that when they got home, and before bedtime, and it enabled the child to sleep in their own room in their own bed. So just doing little things like that sometimes can help give a child the confidence, especially at 4 years old, to do what they need to do. Now, 5 years old, they're going to start looking at themselves as sort of this whole person, right? They're going to start to understand some of their feelings a little bit, and they're going to be very adventurous, and they want to sort of explore what's going on outside in the world. But at the same time, they're still going to be typically a little bit fearful of unfamiliar people and places and experiences. They want to go see what's over around the bend of this hiking trail, but they don't want to do it quite alone, right? They're going to be a little apprehensive. 5, a lot of times, is whenever a lot of kids will start kindergarten, and they're not always going to feel welcome that first day of school. So, like we talked about before, we want to try to alleviate that before the first day of school. They may start to experience some anxiety and some stress, right? I mean, things are really changing when they're 5. They're starting school, preschool, different aspects like that. They're being put in new situations with different people they're unfamiliar with. So that starts to bring that stress and anxiety into their lives. So at this point, we really need to recognize that and help teach children and work with children that are 5 years old on how to cope with that stress and anxiety. And the biggest and easiest way to do that is just offer your love and support for that child so that they can adapt a little bit more easily. These 5-year-olds are also going to be extremely impulsive and act spontaneously, and oftentimes they're not considering the consequences. And really, the reason why is because they don't know what the consequences are, right? They haven't learned that. They haven't gone through that experience yet. So they're going to try to wander around. They're going to try and talk and play whenever they want, even though they're supposed to sit still and listen and focus on their task in school. So this is when they're going to start learning to control those impulses. This is also a time when they're going to start feeling a little bit of empathy for others, which is, understanding someone else's feelings. So you'll start to see now a child in their class might be crying, and they'll actually go over and maybe give them a hug or say it's okay. And that's something that they wouldn't have done up until right around 5 years old. Okay? When they're 6, most kids are going to go through a period of emotional turmoil. And that's just an extreme state of extreme confusion or agitation, right? So this is when you're in school all day for the first time. You don't know how to handle a situation. They're longing to feel grown up, and so we start putting them in those situations. But then they're tasked with trying to find out what their role is outside of home, right? How do I make friends? This person doesn't like me. And when I say, extreme confusion and agitation, it's not necessarily like this big, and we're talking about turmoil. It's not this big thing that happens, like they're abducted, like every child's going to be abducted. It's what we would look at as adults as sort of trivial things, but because a kid has not experienced it before, it's a big thing to them, right? So we need to help them with that, and help them find their own identity. They really, at this point, are really craving and seeking praise and approval, and they're very easily discouraged. So we need to be very careful, even with words that, things that we say to them, phrases and words that we think don't have an impact are actually going to have a huge impact on them. These 6-year-olds are going to be very stubborn. They're going to be quarrelsome. They're going to go out of their way to, combat what their caregivers and their teachers at this point. And then they're pretty much they're really only going to do something that someone else wants them to do so that they can get praise. They're not doing it for any intrinsic value. They're doing it to get the external praise that they're seeking. Okay? So there's a lot of times whenever you give them a direction and they're going to say no. That's just the first thing they're going to say, and they're going to say it all the time. And then you have to ask them again or tell them again, no, you need to do this. And then when they do it, we should give them praise because that's what they're looking for. Okay? They're also going to have extremely rapid mood changes. The only time in someone's life whenever they will have more rapid mood changes is whenever they're a teenager and hormones are sort of going all over the place. Okay? They're going to love and hate things. One day they're going to want to love this show or book. The next day, I hate that book. I never want you to read that book to me again. Okay? Their experience of feeling happiness and feeling sadness is going to become stronger within them. So that's what causes this sort of love-hate relationship in these rapid mood changes. Now, as far as specific emotions go, anger is one of those things that's really going to change. For 4-year-olds, it's going to last longer, right? That angry episode is going to last longer than it ever was before. They're still going to use physical violence. They may even threaten or attempt to get even at this point. Whereas 5-year-olds are more likely to do less physical harm or attempt to do physical harm, and it's going to be more emotional, right? We're going to try to hurt someone's feelings. And then once they get into 6, this is when bullying really starts to manifest a little bit. It doesn't always go all the way to bullying, but even just some things like they learn that they can tease someone or insult someone or make fun of someone, and it might make another student laugh. So they're trying to get the approval of someone at times at the expense of other people. Okay? Frustration is the main cause of most of these kids' anger. Also, disagreements with other children. They're now starting to make friends and have classmates, and they're going to have disagreements, and they'll get angry about things like that. Okay? They're also going to start in this age being tattletales, right? I got in trouble for doing this, so when I see someone else do it, I'm going to get them in trouble because that's only fair in their minds. They're also going to start having major fears at this age as well. Right? They might seem irrational to us, right? Being afraid of ghosts or monsters, but they are going to start developing these fears, and that's because their imagination is going full tilt at this age. So how can we help them deal with those fears? We want to accept that fear, right? Listening, why, what are you afraid of? Why are you afraid of it? We don't want to say it again. We don't want to say it doesn't exist because it's very real to that child. We want to let that child express that fear without any kind of ridicule. We don't want to snicker. We don't want to laugh because, again, they don't know anything different. Their imagination is very, very real in their head. And then we want to help that child face the fear. We don't want to try to take over for them. We need to empower them to face that fear themselves, oftentimes with our help as caregivers, but they need to be the one to face that fear, right? They're the ones that spray that monster spray throughout the room to get rid of the monsters that are there, right? We oftentimes have jealousy rearing its ugly head at this age as well, and this is where that tattletaling or scapegoating or telling on someone else starts. Oftentimes it's because they're jealous that they tattle on someone else. And we talked a little bit about stress already, and that's based on tension that they are feeling because of all this change. They start to worry. We find that the stress and worry starts at a very young age, and it's just because of new experiences, being put in new places with new people. Okay? So when we notice that a child is under emotional stress and tension, and they're worrying about something and having some of this anxiety, we need to look for the cause. We can ask them to draw a picture of what is causing them stress. It might be because of divorce. It might be because of just new situations. And then whenever they are stressing, we want to give them time to calm down, right? Because if we don't, it can turn into a full-blown tantrum, right? So let's give them a chance to sort of calm down, put them, in a quiet room, and make sure that they realize this is not a punishment. We just need to calm ourselves, right? And what we're doing is we're teaching them how to regulate and control their emotions, which will help them later on in life. A way to help keep that stress at bay is to be preventative with it, right? Give them a chance to get rid of that tension. And the easiest way to do that is to give them physical activity to do, have them jump up and down, have them play physical games, things like that. That's why sports are such a great way to relieve energy. And some of you may notice that whenever you do a physical activity, whether it's working out or playing a sport or even just going for a walk, oftentimes that will help to, alleviate some of that stress and anxiety that you're feeling. If it's something that we notice isn't really going away, it's staying, it's rearing its ugly head time after time, what we can do is there are many, many books out there, children's books that deal with these stressful issues. It could be from just moving, right? We have to move to a different school, or even that someone passed away. We can read books with them because these books will often show that the character in the book, the main character, found a way to deal with it and things are going to be okay. That's really what the stress is coming down to. The children just don't know and understand. They can't foresee that things are going to turn out okay. They think this is the worst thing ever and it's never going to get better. Reading a book can help with that. And then by far the best thing we can do is just maintain normal limits on behavior, right? Yes, in a divorce or moving, yes, that's stressful for the child, but we don't want them to start getting away with things that we normally wouldn't, because that is just, we think we're making life easier on the child, but really these children absolutely crave structure and these limits on their behavior and knowing what they are allowed and not allowed to do. If you allow them to do it one time, they think they can do it all the time. And if you get waffle back and forth of One time they can do it, the next couple times they can't, then they can. They don't know where the line is, and when they don't know where the line is, that causes even more stress for them. Okay? The children are also going to be building self-confidence, right? Believing in their own abilities. They're going to start making decisions on their own and start having some initiative, some of their own initiative. They want to build this tower. They decide they want to build it, and they're going to start building it. And we want to make sure that we allow and encourage those efforts to gain self-confidence, right? This comes directly from Erik Erikson, who's a world-renowned psychologist. We don't want to discourage or punish things that they're doing that might limit their self-confidence. Okay? We want them to build self-confidence. So we want to put them in those advantageous situations. We want them to feel good about what they do, because what that does is it builds internal satisfaction. And that's really what we need to develop for successful adults, is people that do things that are going to cause them internally to feel good about themselves. When people only do things to satisfy someone else, that is not a healthy way to live. So we need to start building that early in their lives. Okay. They're also going to start showing respect as well. So expressing confidence in the child's ability means that they're going, when we show them respect, they're going to start showing respect to other people and other child's decisions, right? When we tell them they can't do something, we don't want our explanation to be because I said so. We should explain to them why, because you're not allowed to touch the stove, and the reason why is because you might burn yourself, and that will hurt. You are not old enough to play to be around the stove, or things like that. You're not allowed to run around the swimming pool. It's dangerous. It is slippery. You may fall and hurt yourself or hurt someone else. Okay? So it's not just don't run because I said so. It's don't run because someone may get hurt. We're trying to keep you safe. Okay? We want to always give praise and encouragement, right? Whenever they do something, especially when they do something that you didn't ask them to do, right? We get done eating dinner and they are mimicking your behavior of taking their dish and putting it in the dishwasher, and they do that and you didn't even ask. Tell them, I really appreciate that. Thank you for doing that, right? That's going to cause them to do that more often, right? Not just saying good job, but telling them that you appreciate that and that you really like that they did this. That's really going to help them in the long run. And then, as always, as we've been talking about over and over again, plan activities, right? We want to challenge them, but not overwhelm them. But we want to give them tasks that they can do, but will help them learn something in the future. And then we also want to, of course, encourage individuality. They're going to develop a wide range of skills. It might be making breakfast. It might be playing a sport. It might be drawing. It might be playing an instrument. Whatever it is, encourage it, right? Me, myself, I was an athlete. I like the outdoors. I love hunting. If my child shows no interest in any of those, but shows an interest in playing an instrument, or shows a major interest in reading or writing or drawing, now I like to write, I like to read, but those other ones, those aren't things that I'm very good at. But whenever my kid shows that they have a skill in and they're interested in, I am going to make sure that I encourage that, because encouraging them to do something is better than not encouraging them to do anything, right? Or discouraging them from doing something they like to do. Okay? Allow your child to be the individual that they are so that they can develop and become the person that they're supposed to be, and they have confidence in the person that they are.